Let me switch out my view here. That one. Leah Faston.
Kyle Shannon, how are you?
I am doing well. I just almost clicked the big red button, which is the hang up button. I just almost hung up on this as I'm trying to multitask here.
Don't click the red button.
Yeah, don't click the red button. Good to see you. How are you feeling? I know you feel a little under the weather.
I am a little under the weather, and my voice is coming in and out, which is unfortunate when you host a salon.
Yeah, it was really good there for a while, but I think it's left us. I think your voice has left the building.
I've got my cough drops. I'm kind of like, I'm holding the fort, but I think you're going to do most of the talking tonight. And if I just stop, that's what happened. I'm also at an airport, so my connection may come in and out. So
okay,
there you go.
You seem pretty good right now.
I am.
But welcome everybody. This is the AI Salon. As most of you know, if you're new here, welcome. This is the AI Salon. We are coming up. Next meeting is our 1-year anniversary. So ChatGPT's 1-year anniversary is the 30th. Ours is December 6th was our first meeting. So December 5th is our next meeting, and that'll be the 1-year anniversary, which is unbelievable.
That's bonkers. Hopefully OpenAI will make it to their 1-year anniversary.
Exactly. It's a foregone conclusion at this point.
It'd be amazing if we outlast OpenAI, but okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's lots going on, and if, as you can tell from my banner, if you haven't gone to ChatGPT in the last hour or so, it's down. It's gone. It's gone. It's down. Yeah, it's down. There are things happening, and apparently they don't have engineers to plug that hole. I have no idea. Just ChatGPT is. I just noticed it, right? I was trying to make this image. Hey, CJ. I was trying to make this image on ChatGPT, and then I couldn't. So this was made on ideogram.
Ironic.
Yeah.
The irony. Yep. Yep.
So anyway, the whole idea of the salon, if you haven't been here before, is to create a community of AI adventurers, people that are choosing to be on this ride and trying to figure it out. And it doesn't matter if you've never done it before, you've been in it for 30 years. We're all still trying to figure it out. You know, this generative AI stuff changes everything and is changing everything. Beautiful. That's lovely. That's good. I like it. What's nice about the salon is it's been growing, which is really exciting. And we've got a really cool announcement tonight. We've got a new home for the community that we're kind of soft launching tonight. So everyone that's here is going to get access to that. And that I'm really excited about. Bradley has been
excited.
Building a lot for us, and the thing looks great. So he'll be walking you through that. And then we've got Katie Burkhart's here, going to be speaking to us about all things AI. Normally what we do is we'll go through a big, long batch of intros. We're not going to do that tonight, but what I do want to do, Leah, if you're willing to be a trooper, is walk us through the values. The values for the salon are really important, especially as we grow. I just want to remind everyone, why we're here and I don't know, just how we like to be. So if you're willing to do that, let me share my screen.
I will definitely do it, but I also want to say, since we're not going to get a chance to introduce ourselves, put your information in the chat with a link. People can follow each other, and you can introduce yourself there. Where are you coming? Where are you visiting from? All that kind of stuff. Because I think that's, as I'm about to talk about in the values, the community is why we're here. And the community, Kyle, almost a year ago, you and I had a conversation where we're just like, what's happening? What is this? It came out of curiosity. And so we launched this because we're curious. So here are our values. Our values, let's see. Curious. We are eager to learn new things, ask questions, and experiment. Curiosity is where we started from. Generosity. We are willing to share our knowledge, resources, and feedback with others, and to support each other's growth and development. There's so much to learn. We can't possibly keep up. Even if it's obvious to you, it might not be to the person next to you. So share as you learn. I want to reiterate that. I think that sometimes electronically on chat, we can all get away from this a little bit. And I want to remind each other that when we're on Discord or when we are anywhere else we might be having a conversation, to really think about generosity when you are communicating with the people around you. Exploration. We are excited to try new things, take risks, and embrace the uncertainty and ambiguity. Act as if no one knows what they're doing, because nobody knows what they're doing, right? We're here to find out things. Collaboration. We look for opportunities to work with our others, exchange ideas, create something greater than ourselves. Find a partner or a posse, start a project, start 10. They won't judge you, and who knows, you might just make a friend or the next $1 billion venture. Again, something to take to heart when we're communicating with the group. Inclusion. We actively seek out and value diverse perspectives. I'm going to say that one more time. We actively seek out and value diverse perspectives and experiences. We recognize that our differences are what make us stronger, right? We're not all doing the same thing. We're not all coming from the same place. And by all of us coming from different areas, we start to intersect in really neat ways, and new things are going to start to come, new ideas and new insights start to happen because we're all coming from different backgrounds. Really important piece of the salon. In order for that to work, we create an environment where everyone can feel seen, heard, and respected, and where everyone has equal opportunity to contribute and succeed. I'm going to reiterate, feel seen, heard, and respected. Please, as you're talking to other people and taking in what they have to say, keep that front of mind. And then empathy. We're mindful of the impact of our work on others, and we strive to create work that is respectful, inclusive, and meaningful. AI is one of the most transformative technological advances in humanity. Humans matter. Take each other in. Act from a place of compassion. I'm going to put that in capital letters. Act from a place of compassion. I think right now we need that here at the salon and everywhere else too. So,
yep, indeed.
With that, those are our values.
That's it. And the site that I'm showing these values on is our new home, which we're going to walk you through shortly. So we'll talk about that in a bit. So what I'd like to do is first I want to talk about a couple of things. So in the last couple of meetings, we've been talking about the move to Mighty Networks, the fact that it costs money. The last meeting, we said, hey, if anyone's willing to support, please raise your hand. And so a number of people did. In fact, Kevin Clark from Content Evolution, who I've known for a long, long time, he reached out to me after the meeting and said, hey, Kyle, I'm willing to sponsor your first month. And so one of the things that we were thinking about doing with the community was maybe charging for guilds or charging for this or charging for that as a way to offset costs. And we raised enough money through individual contributors who are thanked there on the bottom and through Content Evolution to get through, I think, the next 3 months or so of Mighty Networks. So we're going to cover the costs of the infrastructure through sponsorship. So our first sponsor is Content Evolution. If your company or if you're interested in sponsoring for a month, let us know. If you just want to contribute a little bit, you can do the QR code there. But we're covered for a bit. And the whole idea, the reason that we're doing it this way is, we got some feedback. Well, we don't think, you should be charging for the community itself, and we agree. But at the same time, it's a volunteer organization, and Mighty Networks is pretty pricey. So we want the community to remain completely free. So that's why we're doing it this way. So if you can support, great. Thanks to Content Evolution, and thanks to all the individual contributors who are noted there, and really appreciate it. They're good. This is the ad. This is the ad for the middle of the salon. So no ads. No ads yet. We'll just deal with it as it comes up. I mean, it's one of the things that is important for us is to really let all of you know that we want to be as transparent as possible. If you like something or don't like something, let us know. We're all just trying to figure this out, just like we're trying to figure out AI. We're also trying to figure out what this community is, how we grow it, how we maintain our values, things like that. So please let us know. Okay. Someone had a question, sounds like.
Yes, thanks. I don't want to get anybody upset, but I thought that Mighty Networks had a free option.
They do. It just doesn't have what we the features that we need. So it's covered. We're good. All right.
Okay.
All right. Great. So I figured because so much is going on, and a lot of what we've been talking about for the past year has been led by ChatGPT, and as of I don't know, in the last 4 days, there have been about what, Roger? 2 years worth of 2 years worth of news. So I figured what might be good, just if you haven't been paying attention, is I'll just sort of walk you through the timeline as I know it, because it's fascinating. So last Thursday, November 16th, Ilya Sutskever, I don't know, I think it's Sutskever, but I'm not sure. He schedules a call with Sam Altman. Mira Murati, who was named interim CEO for a bit, was informed that Altman was going to be fired. On Friday, Greg Brockman, who was the chairman of the board and the president and co-founder with Sam, was demoted from the chairman of the board. Altman's firing was confirmed publicly, or was confirmed internally. The firing was announced publicly. There was an all-hands meeting at OpenAI. Satya Nadella from Microsoft, CEO of Microsoft, heard about this for the first time. Yeah, I think Microsoft found out a minute before this happened, 1 minute. Greg Brockman then resigned. He quit in a tweet. The top 3 researchers of OpenAI resigned. Then on Saturday, there was an internal memo clarifying the reasons for the firing that were not at all clear. OpenAI's investors and their funding went completely at risk. Altman, hello, welcome in.
Thank you.
Altman said he was planning a new venture. I can't imagine the amount of calls he must have gotten and how many billions he was offered on Saturday. The investors pushed for Altman's return. The employees did a 5 o'clock, we're going to quit if the board doesn't resign. The board agreed to resign and then didn't, and apparently reached out to CEO of Anthropic, who's an ex-OpenAIer, and said, do you want to run this? And he said no. Then Sunday, there were now rumors that Altman was going to come back. They were in negotiations. There was some sort of 5 p.m. deadline. The board negotiations stalled. And the board then announced Emmett Shear, the interim CEO. So Emmett Shear was from Twitch. And Emmett Shear is also famously an AI slower downer. So he believes that things should be slowed down. And so he was brought in. And then Monday, Microsoft announces that Altman is joining Microsoft, as is Greg Brockman, as are the top 3 researchers, as are anyone else who wants to come. Ilya Sutskever sends out a tweet saying he regrets his part in getting Sam fired. And then there was an employee resignation threat letter that was written by Mila, who was the CTO and the interim CEO for a bit. And as of Monday afternoon, 550 of the 770 people had signed this letter that said if the board doesn't resign, we're quitting. By the end of the day, Monday, it was 740 or 50. It was like 98% of the employees of OpenAI, how's it going, said that they're going to quit if the board doesn't resign. So that was yesterday. And then today, it looks like Altman and Adam D'Angelo. So we haven't talked about Adam D'Angelo. Adam D'Angelo is the CEO of Quora, who makes Poe. And Poe's got these things called bots, which look remarkably like GPTs. And he's also on the board of OpenAI. So apparently on Dev Day, when they announced the GPTs, Adam didn't know what they were releasing, and it was a direct competitive thing. So apparently he was pretty upset. So today, apparently Altman and Adam D'Angelo were speaking and negotiating, which was a breakthrough. And then they brought in Emmett Shear, who's the new interim CEO. So all three of them were speaking. So apparently they're on a path to bring Altman back, but who knows? so that's as much as I know right now. So I don't know if anyone knows anything else and wants to share anything, but I figured I'd just at least give a timeline of, I mean, this amount of back and forth normally takes months or years. When they booted Steve Jobs from the board of Apple, it took 12 years for him to return, right? And there was a lot of sort of, writing on the wall that was coming. This was out of the blue, and it's just absolute insanity. So, any thoughts? Raise your hands if anyone has any thoughts or questions or theories. Roger.
So apparently, this business with D'Angelo and Poe is even more complicated. If you look at the question of does he fiduciary duties, because Aura and the Poe is a for-profit company. So he has a fiduciary duty to have them make money. But I don't know if you know, the structure of OpenAI is really bizarre. Yeah. It's this not-for-profit thing with a for-profit thing within it, but the board is the board of the outer thing, not the board of the inner thing. So he's a board member of the not-for-profit thing. As such, he has no fiduciary duty to them whatsoever because they don't have an objective of making money. So now you have this question of, okay, if he has interests in one thing, which is a moneymaker, and interest in another, which is not, is it wrong for him to favor the one that makes money or the one that doesn't, if the one that doesn't isn't supposed to be making money in the first place? Right. So it's just incredibly muddy, even what his ethical and legal obligations here are. But I still find it very hard to believe that, given what a puny little thing Poe is, it's hard to believe that's the driver behind all of it.
My suspicion is it's multiple things, but we don't know. That's the thing, is we really don't know. The board hasn't made any sort of clear statement on why they fired him, and I think that's why the negotiations are complex, because there are going to be some lawsuits flying. Oscar.
Hey everybody.
Hey.
Well, good to see everyone again. I think that if the dismissal of one CEO causes this much dissonance across the entire domain of AI, then humanity is fucked. Or we have to divest this cult of personality where only Sam can be the steward of this thing, and without him the technology won't work, and the billions are up in the air, blah 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 blah. If you'd gotten hit by a flower pot walking down the street, we wouldn't be having this kind of conversation. And it seems that for people who are so concerned about the future of humanity, to disrupt $100 billion deal, which would have safeguarded this, what they're trying to steward into reality. It's confusing that this has been so transformative, and at the same time, it was upended like an apple cart, in a food market. It makes perfect sense because we're all a bunch of lemmings, but at the same time, I'm of half a mind that the AI should take over, so we stop screwing up things the continued existence of humanity.
Yeah. It's the people, not the technology, that are the problem.
Well, it might have been the technology that forced the people into this nonsense. See how they're talking about how it's too dangerous to open source this nuclear bomb that they were so concerned about. But yeah,
it's possible. I mean, we don't know. Clearly, it was a structure. Let's put it this way: the way the structure was set up, assuming OpenAI moves forward, it's not going to be like that anymore. the structure is not going to be as fragile moving forward, assuming they can get there. Sherry. You're muted, Sherry. You're still muted, Sherry. There you go.
Anyways, Elon Musk, I don't know what to believe anymore. It's like a circle jerk. If you look on there, there's a thing about GitHub that was just posted. It's something different. It's about 3 employees that got pissed off and they wanted to investigate both Greg and Sam. It's such, it is such a circus. And it's nice to meet you, Oscar, because we're doomed if we have to follow this. I agree 100%. No, I just wanted to, I didn't mean to raise my hand, but
okay.
what I was posting.
That's great. Yeah. So anyway, so at this point, it's really just chat TMZ. Oh, you have yeah. Can you come down here just so people online can hear you?
Hey, I'm Tom, by the way. Nice to meet you guys.
Hey, Tom. Nice to meet you.
My read on this is that Microsoft is really, really close to acquiring chat for virtually no money and taking it out of a capped profit environment. So I'm pulling for Sam and the guys getting it worked out such that chat stays in the capped profit nonprofit realm rather than having Microsoft just go, oh, wonderful. We'll take the leadership, the tech. They've got all of the code. They've got all of the base material. They've got all the resources. They've got all the money, and they have no commitment to capped profit.
And they would have had all the employees.
And so they'll just pick up the 747 of them. Yeah, right.
The biggest, cheapest acquisition in history.
Yeah, so I would prefer personally that it just not go that way.
Yeah.
So great. That's my 2 cents.
Cool. Groovy. What was I going to say? I was going to say something about the structure.
You know that all the employees that walk, they're going to double their salaries within like 21 days because they're all, if they stick with Sam, that's one thing. They're going to, 1.5x their salaries, but they're being headhunted right now left and right. So I don't know what Organi's like long-term thing is besides delusion into Microsoft, honestly.
Yeah, well, the Microsoft CTO said today, anyone that works at OpenAI, they'll match their salary. Benioff said that about Salesforce as well. They'll match a salary. So yeah, if you work at OpenAI right now, it's good. Actually, you should just have ChatGPT write you a resume that says you work at OpenAI. and I think you could. Well, yeah, let them prove it the other way. James.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about the discussion is like this whole idea around intention. So like CJ and I were talking about it yesterday, and like when I heard the news, my immediate thought went to hostile takeover. Like somebody like booted Sam out and like moved him out, and CJ was like, oh, well, they said he got fired for this reason, so it must be true. Like, what could it be? And it's like, everyone's assuming that Sam didn't do anything wrong, and like maybe he did. Maybe he did do something wrong. Like maybe he's got some weird funky agreement with that Poe guy that he like he did something, and it's kind of like someone had mentioned, maybe I was reading it, I don't remember, cult of personality, but like like you believe in that person so much that you put them on a pedestal and they just couldn't do any wrong. Like maybe he fucked up. Like maybe he, like maybe he just wasn't paying attention.
It's possible, although with all the pressure, the fact that the board hasn't said anything why he was fired, that's telling that there's probably not something that's not.
Unless it's something that puts the company in danger, which
right.
The board has an obligation to not.
Yeah. Oscar.
I'm sorry, just a quick interjection. I mean, I love Sam as somebody I've never met. Like I've never read more than 6 things he's ever written, but isn't he a dystopian UBI? The UBI program they ran was like kind of not Star Trek, more like the Matrix a little bit. And isn't he like a doomsday prepper, but with billions of dollars technically at this point?
Who, Sam?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think he definitely believes that AI is going to displace a lot of jobs, and his whole WorldCoin project is a UBI mechanism, right? Partially a UBI mechanism. Yeah.
So there was, I posted it on Discord, but like Sam and Mira did an interview with the Wall Street journalist reporter like a few weeks ago, like at something, I don't know. And she asked him like in all seriousness if he had a bunker, and he like scoffed at her, like like it was he flat out told her it was a ridiculous question, and that he was like mostly optimistic about the future of AI. So I doubt that. I don't know.
Did he say no? Did he say no, or did he scoff?
Stop. He said it was a ridiculous question because it was a ridiculous question.
If he says no,
not a denial. Not a denial.
Exactly. Michael.
So, hey, how's it going?
Good to see you.
You as well, my friend. You as well. My biggest curiosity factor is if Ilya joins the Microsoft squad as well too. He was the 12th signature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ilya's. So the initial speculation was that Ilya was the ouster, because there'd been tensions between Sam and Ilya. And then, the fact that he signed on to the employee agreement as the 12th signature of "I'm going to leave," and he sent that tweet that said, "I regret my participation in this." It points to someone else. And right before we got on, there was a whole nother speculation that maybe Sam wanted to oust one of the other board members, and at this point it's all just chat TMZ. So. We'll let it go. At some point, hopefully before Thanksgiving, we know it's feeling right now like they're going to work it out, and Sam's going to go back there. But we'll see. It's just absolute insanity. Anyway, okay, so let's carry on. Let me talk to you about a couple other news items that I think are worthy that also happened today. It's not just about OpenAI. The first one is that Claude 2.1 came out. So this is from Anthropic. So this is the team that helped create GPT-3 at OpenAI and left because they didn't like how OpenAI was doing security and safety, and so Anthropic uses a completely different model. And in my opinion, Claude is probably the closest competitor in terms of quality. Claude 2.1 has a 200,000 token context window. Their previous one was 100,000. And then GPT 4.5 that came out 2 weeks ago is 136. What is it? 136, I think. And this is now 200. So they just one-upped ChatGPT. It's got a 2x decrease in hallucinations. The API can now use tools and functions, so they're starting to get into parity with at least the ChatGPT, the text version of ChatGPT, and they've also introduced system prompts on the API side. So that's looking pretty good. So especially considering the fact that ChatGPT is down right now, I think it's good for all of us to understand what are your options. And one of the things I've heard is a lot of people are starting to explore the open source world a lot more, because it's like, screw relying on these big companies, set up your own server and get things going. So Stable Diffusion launched Stable Video Diffusion today. So just like Runway is text to video, they put that out today. I just saw the announcement. I haven't played with it or looked at it, so I don't know if it's live or if it's just an announcement. And then Microsoft today, it was interesting listening to Satya Nadella yesterday on Bloomberg. She was asking him about, the reliance on OpenAI, and he said, "Oh, we're not just big on large language models. We're also good on small language models, and we've done a lot of work on our own." And so today they put out these things called copilots, which are essentially like GPTs. So these are just like GPTs. There's a thing called Copilot Studio. I didn't have access to it, so I don't know when they're going to roll it out to everyone. But if you like doing GPTs, there's likely going to be a Microsoft version of them. One of the things that I noticed is that you can connect things to Office 365. So this is going to be fully integrated into Microsoft software suite. And also notice the URL copilot.microsoft.com. Microsoft has officially rebranded Bing Chat as Copilot, and they're doing it as copilot.microsoft.com, not bing.com. So feels to me like they're letting Bing sort of drift over into the search, stay in the search space, and they're really branding Copilot as the generative AI stuff. So thought that those were three interesting ones. So yeah, any thoughts or any other thing happened today that I missed that anyone thinks is interesting or big? Okay. Okay, so just really quick update. So I'm gonna shift gears, and I'm gonna have Bradley walk you through the shift to our new home, which we're really excited about. One of the nice things that has happened in the past, I don't know, 2 months or so, is we added guilds to the salon. So guilds are like sub-communities led by guild masters. We have an AI 101 guild, an art guild, a writing guild, an AI and business guild that actually is, we rolled together the entrepreneur guild and the AI for business guild. So Bradley and Ken are heading that up. We've got an AI mechanics guild. If you want to geek out, Roger and Pate are doing that. We've got a healthcare guild, and we've got a brand new as of today, video guild that's headed up by Scott. Normally we would do updates from each of the guilds. I'm not going to do that today, just because we're going to introduce kind of the new home where these things are going to live. So just know that, not only do we have the community where you can talk in general, but you have these very specific areas where you can, find communities and ask specific questions. Okay, so the new home lives at Mighty Networks. The little screenshot to the right there is a sneak peek of it. And today we're soft launching it. And what a soft launch means is that Bradley's going to walk you through what we've set up, what Mighty Networks is and how it works, but in particular how we've set it up to be as seamless a transition as possible from the current Discord to this thing. One of the nice things about it, in my experience of it so far, is it feels very familiar to what we've had set up in Discord, but it takes it just to a whole new level. I'm really excited about it. So the guilds in particular are still going to be available on Discord until December 5th. So there's going to be a transition period. So we're going to give you access to it today. I'd encourage you to start moving your conversations over to Mighty Networks. Just know that things might be incomplete, things might change, and how things are going to change is let us know if you think things need to change or are not clear. But both guilds and Mighty Networks guilds will be live for the next 2 weeks. Then the official launch date of the Mighty Networks community is December 5th. The Discord guilds at that point will be disabled. Any redundant Discord channels will be disabled, and then all communications will point to Mighty Networks as of December 5th. So when we talk about come join the community, it'll be come to that URL. And then one of the pieces of feedback we got is there's some things that Discord is good for, like, for example, making Midjourney images, or if you want to practice creating bots or things like that with Zapier. So we're going to keep the Discord active, but anything that's redundant with Mighty Networks, we're going to kill. But anything where it makes good sense to have a Discord playground, Discord's going to become much more like a playground. So I think particularly for the Mechanics Guild or anyone that wants to do any kind of, scripting or coding or things like that, it's good to go. So with that, Bradley, are you ready to walk people through this? So my request is this. Bradley's going to walk through a lot. There's a lot here. Please pay attention as much as you can, because there's a lot to go through here. And then at the end of this, we'll give you access to it. If anyone has questions, just save them to the end, and we'll get Bradley going on this and take it from there. So let me stop sharing. Stop. You've already taken over, of course. Yep. Wait, that's not right. Hang on. Hold. Wait for it.
All right, can everybody hear me? And get a thumbs up. Okay. All right, so the Mighty Network changed. So we want to welcome everybody to a new community, and this is going to be the gathering place for the AI Salon. So some of the pain points that we've heard along prior to kind of making this move to Mighty Networks was most people hate Discord. So heard that one loud and clear. And we say most people, not everybody, but most people. There's been issues of finding the meetup links and knowing where those are and having to use another platform for meetings like Meetup or LinkedIn link, things like that. There's been some trouble adding events to calendars just because it is just a random link in the Discord chat or the Meetup platform. There's been a struggle keeping up with chat threads. So if you're gone for a couple of days, you've missed out on a lot. So if you haven't been on Discord for the last weekend, you could, as we've shown you, you missed a lot. People have difficulty navigating the platform, can't remember where you might have saw something posted and you're trying to find it. And it's really hard to know who you're talking to because Discord is a platform built for the gaming community and the tech community. So, gamer tags or usernames are very popular, but it does lend towards not knowing who you're actually talking to. So, the new Mighty Network, some of the things that this is going to be focused around is it's going to be a calendar for events and meetups. So easy access and easy integration with your calendars. It's going to shift over to a post feed structure, kind of like Facebook. It still allows for discussions to be had. It also is going to host our media and recording. So past events are going to be a little bit easier to access and find. And then there's going to be creative resources and help. So let me give you kind of a general outlook of the new Mighty Networks. It's going to allow you to discover cool posts and recent activities, just like Facebook would with a home dashboard. You can add events to your calendar. You can connect with real people. And it'll be easier to find channels and spaces, which we'll go over here shortly. And then also there's an onboarding checklist that'll help everybody get started and get integrated into the community in a way. Now, obviously this is a soft launch, so it's not perfect. So feel free to provide any feedback to us of how that checklist is working for you. But it is there to assist you in getting started. So the first thing I want to show everybody is the home feed. So this is where you are going to be staying up to date on current posts. There's going to be featured events, featured channels, and featured content. So you'll be able to see and access things a little bit easier. And then up here in the top right-hand corner, typically found in software and platform, is you're going to be able to see messages that you have from other people and notifications of what's happening in the community, as well as an invite link so you can invite your friends, family members, complete strangers, whoever you want to. It also allows for you to discover what's going on. So the Discover tab, which is just underneath the main feed, allows you to see some of the top posts and activity. And it also allows you to see members near you. So if you're in Boston, you can see other Boston people that are part of the salon that you can connect with and build things with, go out for coffee and talk about AI. The next main tab is events. So this is where you're going to be seeing all the upcoming events, and you will be able to add them to your calendar and iCalendar from the actual event itself. So you can commit, say that you're coming and then add that and sync that to your Google Calendar as well. Next up, just underneath events, is other members. So this is where you'll get to see who is nearby that you can connect with. You can find who's a host of the community and ask them questions. And then you also get to see people's real names to better form friendships and collaborate with. And spoiler alert, we are going to encourage people to use their real names. It's not mandatory, but we do highly encourage it so that we can form a community. This is about being human in a world of AI. So that's kind of what we're leaning towards. Add to that is, yeah. I don't think so. We're slightly paused. Let me mute. All right.
So one of the things I want to add to the use your real name things, one of the traditions of Discord, because it's a gamer, it's a gamer community kind of platform, is a lot of people on there don't use their real names. It's kind of part of the culture there. And part of what we want to do with the salon is, get to know one another. It's why we meet in person. It's why we have our cameras on when we do these things. So that's the thinking behind it. So, it's just, we want it to be culturally a different thing and kind of support the values of the salon. So.
All right. That was a nice little segue. All right. So let me kind of go over the collections and spaces, which are pretty much categories and channels that we have set up. Yeah. All right. We're back to it. All right. So the categories that we have set up and the spaces that we've curated for everybody are salon information. This is where you're going to learn about the salon, how you can navigate the network that we've created, some of the rules and engagement, or the rules of engagement. So, be nice to everybody, just some simple stuff to get us started, and, it'd be a fun and inviting community. Then we'll have salon announcements. So this is where you'll get to see everything that's happening and where our announcements will live. You'll get to know the salon team, and you'll be able to check out FAQs. So this is going to be a good resource for everybody to go see how to solve any problems and then ask any questions, and that's where we're going to answer them. Then we have a thank you page, which is really around everybody, who has contributed and sponsored, just like the slide, Kyle showed, that's kind of going to be our thank you for supporting the community. Then we have the AI Salon content. This is where you're going to find the salon streams and meetings, as well as past media. So all of our past recordings are going to be uploaded and linked there. Then we have the community section. This is where we have the welcome wagon. This is where everyone's going to introduce themselves, and we're going to have everyone say hello. It's going to be more in a feed format rather than a chat format, so that everybody can say hello to everybody who's new. Then we have the water cooler. So this is our discussion-based platform. So everything that talking about music, talking about videos, talking about images, it's all going to happen here. And it's really cultivated around sharing, news with each other and just kind of chit-chatting. Then we have show and tell. Show and tell is going to be a channel where everyone's going to kind of come and show kind of the things that they've created, some GPTs, hopefully, if they're still around, that they've created, that you can kind of show off and we all can kind of encourage. Then we have AI tools and resources. This is where we're going to encourage everybody, if you found a cool tool that replaces OpenAI or ChatGPT, put it in there so that we can all kind of keep track of how the AI community is evolving. And then finally, we have ask for help. So this is where if you have a AI need or curiosity, you can post it in the ask for help section, and people can kind of come to your assistance, and you can partner up with other members in the community. And then finally, what we're really kind of aiming to form the community around is also the salon guilds. So this is where you'll find the Peter's AI 101, Leo's Making Art, Jane's Writer Circle, AI for Business, Pate's AI Mechanics, and the Healthcare Guild, and the Video Guild, which we just added today. All right, so probably running out of time, so let me kind of go through really quickly some of the next stuff. All right, so in the salon info section, this is where you're going to learn about the salon, read our community rules, meet the organizers, and get the salon announcements. So if you have any questions around the salon and any information you need, this is going to be the place to go. And one major call out of the salon info section is the FAQs. So this is where you're going to go and see frequently asked questions. We're still building this because no one's asked any questions yet. So as you ask questions, we're going to put them in here. Exactly. There is a tab here that says ask a question. This is where you see I can just type in, how do I add an event to my Google Calendar? And then we'll respond with an answer. And if multiple people like this comment, then we'll add it to the main FAQs section. All right, the AI Salon content. This is where you're going to see the official AI Salon events and rewatch past events if you've missed them. So they're categorized based on date. You can click those, and the video is embedded so you can watch it even though it's uploaded on YouTube. You can watch it there and catch up to date if you missed a salon meeting. Then we have the community section. This is a snapshot of the welcome wagon. This is where we want to welcome new members and introduce yourself and just really make everybody feel welcome. And with this format being more feed structure, it is easier to say hello to everybody and not miss anybody. The next space that we created is the water cooler. So again, this is the discussion-based funnel where you can share cool news and articles. And we are going to be encouraging everybody to use hashtags. So we have created a group of hashtags. So if you're talking about a video or talking about images created or any news and events, it's really easy to use a hashtag. All you got to do is click the hashtag button and it populates the ones that we've curated. And that just helps us organize the content for future users and for us to look back on and find tools a little bit easier, find images a little bit easier and such. And yes, it'll allow end users to filter. So not taking questions at the time, but I will hop over real quick and kind of show you how that works. So if you go to like AI for Business, we have our subgroups. You can actually like click tools, and we don't have any listed here, but all the things a listed tool will show up here. So, and stepping back a little bit, you actually see when an event is live. So right now, we're in the event right now, and it shows that it's going on. So hopping back over to the presentation, hashtags are going to be a helpful tool for all of us to organize stuff. Next up is the show and tell. And again, I'm just kind of going down the left navigation as you will see when you join. This is where we want everybody to show their cool creations, and we want everybody to join in creative challenges. So we will be posting challenges, hopefully on a weekly basis, that ask people to create something cool, and we'll give some parameters. And we want to see everybody's creativity as they post that and answer that question or that challenge. So stay tuned for challenges and engaging in that way. Next up is the ask for help section. This is where you're going to ask fellow members for help with an AI problem that you are wanting to solve. So, hey, does anybody know how to use Zapier to connect my GPT to an online whiteboard? This is where you can come and answer if you have figured that out. And so hopefully we can get engagement in the community to connect and grow and learn from each other. All right, then we got guilds. So this is really important. So we want everybody to join a guild of their interest. And once you join a guild, you'll see events and you'll see relative content posts and connect with fellow guild members. So you can actually see individual events. So this is James. She has uploaded all of her upcoming events. So you can see them separate from your main events calendar page. As well as you can see business related posts in the AI for Business Guild. All right, and as we kind of wrap up this demo real quick, I wanted to help help you out with some quick tips. So the difference between posts versus chats. So there's going to be a couple of different tabs when you get into Spaces. Most of them are going to be post-based, but the chats are really going to be best for current discussions, complete randomness, saying hello to each other, things that really don't need to be found later on. We really want to encourage posts to be for articles, questions, creative images, sharing tools, anything that you feel somebody's going to want to find later, maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, and come back to. It's going to be helpful if those are posts because they are going to be better to be searchable, which you can, up at the very top, you can search content. And it is very intuitive where you can just type in a word and it pulls up anything related to that word. So that only works in posts. So we encourage people to post that type of content. Next up, like I mentioned, hashtags. So we have started to use highlighted hashtags as a way to organize some of the content. And we recommend when posting an article, news, tool, etc., to use the hashtags that we've created to help us organize the content. And then finally, profile setup. When you join the community, which is a click of a button, it's pretty easy. Please help us by using your real name. Write a quick bio of yourself. Think of the mini bio as what you put up in LinkedIn as your kind of your title thing. And then share a little bit about yourself. So really engage with the community and share a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you. And that is the Mighty Networks quick run through. Obviously, we can't cover everything in how-tos. That's what the FAQ section is, but scan this QR code, and here shortly, we're going to drop the link in the chat as well as the announcement section on Discord. And I will hand things back over to Kyle.
Okay, you got it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so first off, thank you, Brad, for walking us through that. Thank you for being the architect of this. I also want to thank the organizers for the past couple of Sundays have come into this building and online. Vicky's joined us online and spent like 4 hours on a Sunday getting this thing ready. So it's way farther along than I thought it would be at this point. So I just want to thank all the organizers, anyone who's helped put this together. My deep request is let's give Bradley and the organizers a nice golf clap for putting that together. And my request is, go play and start using it and start populating it and things like that. And as you can, start to migrate off of Discord and wish it a fond farewell. Charlie Brewer, you have a question? You're muted. If you do,
that was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
No question.
Fantastic. All right. Okay, good. Fantastic. So if no one has any questions, please go play there. But thank you, Brad. Thank you all. And let's move on. Okay. Okay. So I'd like to introduce Katie Burkhart. Katie, are you ready?
I am.
Awesome. Okay, great. So Katie today is going to talk to us about making the most of AI as a tool. She's with MatterLogic, and I'm really excited to have you here. I'll let you introduce yourself, but super excited to have you here. Excited to hear what you have to say. And then, as always, when Katie's done, if you're online and have questions, please raise your hand, and Ken will navigate through who's raised their hand. And anyone here in Denver, if you have questions, just let me know, and I'll sort of coordinate with Ken. So with that, Katie, why don't I turn it over to you to introduce yourself? And really excited to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Well, I have to say that was all very exciting. So I'm hoping I can like follow that up with some tough act to follow with everything you guys have going on. But spot on, that is exactly what I've come here today to talk about. So this is going to be a little bit more about how to approach AI than necessarily the complex technical details of the technology, which I am by no means versed enough to speak on. But my name is Katie Burkhart. First and foremost, I write a Substack called WTP, which is asking what's the point to help make the most of your time. We cover business, culture, productivity, strategy, and even a little bit more under that umbrella, and really looking at things from a number of different vantage points and always trying to ask some better questions. I'm also the CEO of the MatterLogic company, which is a strategy and execution company. We work with particularly distributed teams to really help them dig into the value that they deliver, understand the point of their business, as it were, develop their strategy, and then knowing that, you know, strategy is actually about making choices, work with them throughout their entire business, front to back, to make sure that everything is driving in one direction, and they're truly able to become a strategic thinking business. I also have a small creative studio, specifically a conversation storytelling studio called Matter7 or M7, which both supports the MatterLogic company's work and also works with clients of its own. We work in a wide variety of mediums to try to help people tell stories that are human and human-centered in a world where a lot more of what we're running into is very much not human, or at the very least not from a human, and what does that mean, and how we're connecting to other people. So it's a very long story about me, but I will stop there because that's not why you're here. What I did want to start with is, how did I get into AI? What drew me to being interested in it? And the first part I would say is I'm not a techie. I had someone say to me when I was in college, she said, "You're a tried and true method person." And I just sort of blinked. She was an upperclassman. She said, "You're that person that is not going to go get a new way of doing things if the old way isn't broken. You're going to need to know for sure that that new way is really worth switching over to." Ironically, she was 100% correct, even though I had never really thought about it myself. And that's how I really look at AI and all the other technology that hits my desk, is this is a tool. How am I going to approach it? And is it really going to add value to my life and the life of others? Or is it just another shiny object that maybe I don't need? So before we continue, I think it's worth understanding or taking a moment to actually define the word tool. What does tool mean? You'll find if you actually look it up with my friends Merriam and Webster that it has numerous definitions, but the one that I thought was most valuable in this case was a means to an end, right? So a tool is something that's going to help you get to some type of end, some type of goal, some type of outcome, get it to work a certain way, perhaps, okay? So that's how I want us to think about that as I move through this conversation. The way I'm going to do the first half of this conversation is I want to start with essentially 3 waves of tools. Number 1, I'm going to go all the way back to fire and talk a little bit about fire as a tool. Then I want to talk about the need and other need-alike things that have come about in our culture. And then I want to talk a little bit about AI. And then I will end on, you know, how might we actually approach it, which is where we'll stop off then with questions. So to dive in and sort of start all the way back at the very beginning, one of the first tools that I think people think about is fire, and how revolutionary fire was to our existence as a species. And I went out to sort of go beyond the kind of obvious, you know, oh, AI is, you know, Prometheus, you know, and all of these very exciting predictions and literary hearkenings that my storytelling soul loves, to really try to understand how did we actually make fire a tool. And from what I read, there's a lot of debate around how we actually did that, because it happened a very, very long time ago. But that we really feel that early species, early humans, were out there and saw fire in brush, and actually were like, oh, this is really cool. When the fire goes through the brush, it may clear away mess for me. It may burn up food that I can eat. It may make tree roots warm and allow them to hold that heat, which helps me for other reasons. So we saw like, hey, this thing that is naturally occurring could provide value to me and improve my life. And indeed, the first way that we really started to harness it was in food preparation. And our teeth and our digestive tract and a lot of, our body and biomechanisms changed once we started cooking and preparing food with fire from what we did beforehand. And this was a massive benefit to us just in the basics of caloric intake and how we could function. We then also started to use fire to create sharper weapons and tools. And before you say, that's so we could stab the other guy. Actually, according to what I read, the reason initially was that we now had to go out and kill these animals in order to cook them. And it went better in both the killing and the cooking to be able to use sharp metal tools to go out and do that. But as I sort of just mentioned, what you've heard is that what we saw was, hey, we saw something naturally occurring. We determined that it would have benefit to us. And then we were able to, through trial and error, most likely, come up with different ways in which it was beneficial to us. We also found in that process that there's two sides to this particular coin, in that what we created, what we harnessed into a tool, did many good things. It also had the potential to do many bad things. And that is true of absolutely any tool that I think we've ever put in front of ourselves. But important to keep in mind that started back then. Then we shift, and I want to talk a little bit about the THNEED. And for any of you that are out there going, what in the world is she talking about? I am referencing Dr. Seuss, specifically the Lorax, where the once-there comes to town and cuts down a truffle tree and makes a THNEED. And he's very open that it's a THNEED. It's a thing that everyone needs. It can be a blanket, a hat, a house. It can clean coats. It can be your sheets. You can wear it on your head. You can do pretty much, anybody can do anything with it at any time. It is a thing that has no actual definitive purpose, so it doesn't even have a real name. And that's what it is. And of course, the Lorax is like, this is crazy, you're just greedy, this doesn't make any sense. Does everybody really need your THNEED? Like, is this actually a thing that's happening? And what happens in the story is somebody comes up and pays him for the THNEED. And his response was, you can never tell what some people will buy. And we entered into, sort of as we move through tools, this sense of need of, we observed something, we determined it would be useful, and now we're going to go out and harness it to continue to improve our life, to now we have other humans creating things that we may or may not need, and hoping that maybe somebody will see value in it and buy it. As you might imagine, this is just like our double-sided coin, has good and bad. There are absolutely innovations and things that came out that I would have never dreamed of. And had somebody not cooked it up, I would not have been able to go out and get value out of whatever it is that they created. There are a vast amount of things that nobody ever really needed that are still out there that people are working very hard to get you to buy. And what this has created, in my humble opinion, is an environment not so much of profit motive, but of more motive. How do we really have more? We have the ability to create. We should be able to have more of just about everything, the same way that a THNEED can do anything for everybody, for anybody at any time. It can be all things. We really like that sense of, look at how much more it can do, how much more we can have, how much more we can create, which is where you enter something like AI, which is fundamentally, in most of the pieces and things that I've seen, generative AI is the AI that I see getting the most talked about, because it's the one that I think most people have access to. And what it does fundamentally is it creates, it generates more stuff, and will allow us to create even more than we could create before. Isn't this wonderful? You could write 10 blog posts. Now you can write 200. This is great. We have more. Everybody needs blog posts. And what's interesting to me is not only does it do that, it does 1,000,001 things. It has taken the THNEED and kind of exponentialized all of the things that it can do and help you to create, from making images to building slide decks to analyzing your files, to even making new drugs, and for some people the ability to actually predict the future, which I think is really fascinating. And I think for some of us, we approach this much like the person who walked up and saw the need and said, you know what, I think that makes for a great hat. Here's $3. I'm thrilled. But I think for a lot of us, we see this and we just feel absolutely overwhelmed, and we end up in almost like blank page scenario where we don't really know where to start or what to do, or whether or not going out and being really busy, maybe being very active and doing stuff is maybe giving us the benefit that we're actually looking for. Is it something that's helpful, or am I just doing it? And this is where the key to me for any tool is always going to be value, and really understanding if it is in fact bringing value to your life, or potentially and hopefully your life and the life of others, because that to me is always the point. In any context that you put me in, that is going to be my question, and that is what I'm going to want to know. So just because AI can do all of these things, what might I want AI to do, and how do I go about approaching that? And that's what I want to talk about today. And this is where I like to think about it as a tool. Yes, it is a marvel. I have no argument here, but it is ultimately a tool. And what I want to talk through are 4 questions. I cheated, there's technically 5, but 4 questions that I think are really helpful to ask when approaching AI and figuring out how you might integrate it into your business or into your own work, or even into your own life, and whether or not that's going to be net positive or neutral, or even a distraction or something worse. And I'm going to use some examples from my own business and life as I go through. So the first question that I will almost always ask for always and forever is, what's the point? And before we really sit down and look at any piece of technology, AI or otherwise, it's a tool. I want to understand, most importantly, what value, what outcome, what do I want to get out of, right? What's the end I'm going for by applying this tool? And the more that I understand the point of why I'm approaching the tool, the more likely that I'm going to be able to select the tool that's going to best get me to where I want to go, and hopefully to apply that tool in the right sort of ways. With something like AI, you have so many options in what it can do. Even if you say, well, yeah, I think AI is the right solution, what part in order to move you forward? And the specific example I had within my own business is we deal with a lot of qualitative data. And one of the things that we had been talking about internally was, if we continue to grow and serve more clients, we will not be able to keep up with manually processing the qualitative data, which is what we do right now. Yes, for all of you who just groaned, it does take a lot of time. I'll get back to that in a second. So we sat down and said, is there a way, like what would we like to happen? What is the point of going through all of this data? What process might we see that would be better, that we'd like to get to? What's the end that we'd like to see? And really encouraged ourselves to not pigeonhole ourselves into pre-selecting the tool and building what we wanted into the box, but to say, this is what we want, what's going to help us to get there. And what we were really looking for was, what's going to allow me to more easily find specific trends, specific repeat patterns, things that we could set up that we would want to see in every client's data, while still giving us the flexibility to go in and find things that are unique to that client, and ultimately, and in an ideal world, to be able to query that data, to be able to have a conversation with it, to say, well, did you see this? What about this? In a way that would be just a little bit more human friendly versus having to manually shift through it. Second question, which is very much related to the first, is what changes? What changes if you decide to apply this new tool or this different approach than you were doing before? Most importantly, and to keep in mind, is what do we lose in this process? Because whenever you introduce something new, right, something is going to change. And almost always you're going to lose something that you used to have. One of the examples I use is when cell phones came about, nobody bothered to memorize their numbers anymore. And most people go, well, it's not really a big loss. And I'm like, yeah, till you're in the middle of nowhere and you know absolutely no phone numbers to call except 911, because that's just not a thing that you do anymore, whereas my grandparents would be fine. So the thing that we thought about as we sat down and said, well, what do you lose, right? Like, what do we lose in this process? And we were pretty clear that part of what we would lose is an incredible intimacy with the information. That yes, sorting through it manually takes more time, but we're very aware of every answer. We're able to find those anomalies that maybe a machine would discount and say, well, only one guy said it, so it's not important. But a human might say, actually, that was a really good point. So we sat down and made a list of what we were worried about losing and are in talks with some different platforms to figure out which one will allow us to prevent loss to a point that it is damaging to our ability to really serve our clients successfully, while hopefully reaping the benefit of not just being able to move faster, but being able to recall the information. It wouldn't require you in some cases to have it memorized or to have to painstakingly go back and find it. The third question that I like to ask is, did I make it hard? So in some cases, adding in a new and fancy tool did not necessarily make the job easier, simpler, or better. In some cases, it's the same as it was before, and now you just have this whole new tool that may be screwing up other things in your systems, messing up other processes, which makes it hard, or it is fundamentally more complex in the first place, which maybe you didn't need to do. Speaking for myself, one of the things that we looked at outside of qualitative data was, when does it start to actually make our process hard? And for me, it wasn't quite hard, but better example, one of my colleagues is a lawyer and made the point that at some point I would love to have it draft certain things for me, but until I have it draft the thing, go out, double check that it's correct, double check that it's on sound legal footing, etc., it's actually taken me twice as long than if I had just sitting down and written it from scratch in the first place. Do I think that AI will get smarter, and maybe that level of, or that amount of time to ensure that it's correct may not be required in the future? Possibly, but right now we're not quite there yet, and it's okay to say, this particular task or this particular end I want to get to, this isn't the best way to get there yet. There may be something simpler. The example from my own life, not so much from my business, is I still keep a paper planner because it's still, to me, the easiest way to manage a lot of what I have going on, and to manually review and go through that information, to me, provides a certain benefit that the screen just never will. It's my humble opinion, and loads of people disagree. The last question I had, because there should be a fourth one here. Oh, I just like that picture, sorry. The fourth piece that I wanted to hit on was, should I? And this is always a question that I ask about a lot of things, which is a statement that says, just because you can does not mean that you should. And the same is true with all technology. And a lot of people take that to be deep in ethics and dark forces rising, but it doesn't always have to be quite that complicated. Just because you can do it that way doesn't mean that it's actually a better way to do it. And the test that I usually like to ask people is, does doing it this way, does implementing this tool in this particular way help to shape a world that I want to live in? And sometimes the answer is, heck yes, this is totally going to make the world better. In other cases, maybe it doesn't. You know, for example, you just had a great conversation about, we'd really like you to use your own names because we're actually trying to build a community of real people. That's fabulous. That's helping to shape the world that you want to live in. And is a very simple example of how you can go about doing that. Technology works much the same way. And one of the things where we elected not to use technology is we do a lot of that qualitative information gathering in listening sessions. And one of the things that we do not do is we do not record them in any capacity. We do take notes to ensure that we have pretty close to word for word responses. But the manner in which we do that is stripped of all names. There's no recording that can leak onto the internet. The information is immediately put into a bigger library of information. So it would be very difficult to trace back to any individual person. And we do that on purpose, because what we would lose in the process is that we would have people on the call perpetually uncomfortable and being able to share candidly what it is that they're thinking. That does absolutely nobody any good. And then on the, does it build a world we want to live in? The answer was no. We didn't really want people to feel like they were being perpetually recorded because we just have too much of that already. And the only reason we don't actually put them around a table as human beings is because in a lot of cases we're bringing people together from all over the place, and there's just not a good way to do that, where that would actually be our preference as far as building a world that we want to live in versus a purely virtual one. So those are things, you know, to think about. That gets me to the end of all 4 points, technically 5 if you were paying attention. And this is the point where I'm going to stop and turn this over to say, what questions do you all have? And I'm happy to engage in dialogue around this, in things that I've tried in my own work or my own life, things other people are trying. Whatever questions are out there, consider them totally fair game. But at this point, I'll stop sharing and just open up the floor.
Great, fantastic. So yeah, if you're online, please raise your hand. Ken will go through it. If anyone here in the room has questions for Katie, just let me know and I'll put you in. Dre's got one. I have a quick question for you, just because you remind me of my business partner. She and I have very different approaches. You've got the sort of, you know, the planning thing down. She's like that. I'm sort of the chaotic hand wavy guy. I'm curious if I love your approach. I love the questions, like love it. I'm curious if how AI works, if what it does has surprised you in any way, it's caught you off guard. That is there anything in what it does, or how people use it, or how you thought they would use it from a planning perspective versus how they do? Like, has anything surprised you about it?
2 things. One, I was surprised just how many people really don't like to write things, and how very willing they were to give that up. Whereas that's something that, to me, writing's the think, not the ink. I can't imagine like giving that up to something else. But that was like, I was like, wow, people really, really don't like to write, coupled with some studies that showed that there are a lot of people who really don't have that skill. And what does that mean in a world that is so digital and distributed, that we've kind of left that off, you know, and people don't seem to have that, which is somewhat interesting. The second one is, which is related, the comfort to which people seem to want to give their thinking to AI, and sort of and I appreciate the challenge, right? Because just like industrialists, you know, machines don't get tired, machines don't have to eat, machines don't have bad days, you know, like I appreciate some of the thought process there, but at the same time, I was a little surprised at just how many people were like, no, we should just turn everything over to the machines. I'm like, really? There's been a lot of movies that suggest that's not a great idea.
That's great. That's great. Awesome. Thank you. We'll grab someone here in Denver, and then Ken, I'll let you start doing stuff online.
Okay. Hey, Katie, I'm so glad you could come and talk. I'm Drea.
Hi, Drea.
Hi. So I am wondering, as somebody who's not a techie, but always sort of tinkering with AI, I have trouble figuring out criteria of sort of when to quit, when to try to bend this thing to my will. So I'm wondering, like, how much time commit would you put into tinkering, or what kind of questions would you ask to discuss, to kind of discern tinkering length?
Some of it has to do with short-term value versus long-term value. I will always tinker longer if I'm building something that's part of a system that will have long-term leverage use. So for example, I can't code. I just can't code, not a developer. Don't pretend to be one. But went out and was like, I understand that the way most things work on the internet is based on tables. And Airtable seems like a tool I might be able to teach myself. And I was willing to put in extra time to learn how to do it, because I figured if I built the system really well, all I would have to do is put information to the system and it would give me value over a much longer period of time. But trying to get just the right image to poof out of the AI generator for my blog post, that is a short-term thing. And like at the end of the day, if I've like spent way too much time trying to get the right image to poof out, and in 5 minutes I could go either take an image or grab one off of Unsplash that I would be equally happy with, I typically quit and go grab the image because I'm not seeing the payoff of putting the extra time in. So there's no like hard and fast rule other than I'm always willing to put in a little more elbow grease if there's a long-term tool or long-term system value over like an immediate small task where I'll get frustrated. And sometimes the question I always like to ask is it because the tool is not the right tool, or that the payoff for this particular end, this is the wrong tool for it? Or is it because I am a bad master of the tool, right? Because, you know, a tool is only as good as the hand that you put it in. And if I find myself coming back to something and then struggling with it repeatedly, usually that's when I'm like, I think this is me. How can I go get some help to learn how to use this better, and then better assess if the tool would actually be good for the job? I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. That helps. Thanks.
All right. Any others in Denver?
Any other questions here in Denver? Great. Not yet.
Okay. I guess we will start with Eric Sanner.
Oh, thanks, Katie. That was really, really awesome.
Thank you.
I have a quick comment and a quick question and a slightly longer question. The quick comment being, when you said you're surprised that other people are so willing to delegate writing to the AI, there was a salon speaker whose name I can't remember. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find it. I apologize. He's a illustrator. He makes books of comics. And he's also a professional, set designer or script writer or something. But he would never use it for writing. A lot of his job involves writing. But he was totally fine having it generate images. He was like, that's cool. I don't need to draw these elves or whatever. But yeah, anyway. So people share that sentiment.
Thank you. Nice to know it's not.
Yeah, not just you. The quick question being, what was the bendy wrench that you just liked that didn't have a point?
Oh, it did have it should have, I was working to try to make sure people didn't have to stare at nothing, because that's what I think slides are supposed to be for. And I should have clicked while I was talking for a long time, and I didn't, and that's okay. And then moved to the next one. It was my way of saying it wasn't essential to the digestion of the content, so I was just going to click by it, and it's okay.
Okay, and then I was looking at your list. You had about 12 things that AI can do, like write blog posts, and I was kind of trying to guess which ones you've done, which ones you think are useful use cases, and which ones are not. Like making drugs is useful, but I imagine you may not yet have done that yourself.
Yeah.
The AI. So what are some of the ones that you think are really great that you use yourself, is my question.
If I could figure out how to get the image generators to do what I want, which is, I think, operator error, not the tool's error, I think there's some value there, not because I want to get rid of other art forms, but I'm a big believer that like we can keep adding many more mediums and still have lots of art. Like we're still performing theater even though we watch movies. You know, like there's I think that's largely additive as far as art is concerned. I think that would be very cool myself. I think there's the qualitative data piece is something I'm very excited to go and spend more time in and get to work really well. I have a lot to learn because it's not necessarily my background. Doing it manually, that I understand. So working to understand that a little bit better. There's something in the predictive analytics space that I think could possibly be really cool if we use it to inform decision making rather than sort of relinquishing all control to like, well, it said we should do this, you know, so we're just going to kind of follow the machine, because I don't know that that's quite, that doesn't create a world I want to live in. And I think we'll very quickly create more sameness, less distinction, because we're already seeing that in optimizing for algorithms and things like that. There's a great article I can share if I go dig it up that just kind of blew my mind on that front. Other things that there are other applications. Search is the other one that I'm actually planning to launch. in December, as part of my Substack, we're launching onto a platform with deeper guides. And one of the things that I think is very cool is the more human interface, that instead of, you know, we put the policy on leave and vacations in this folder under Julie's area, and we actually have 3 versions. You need to make sure you read the one with the right date. You know, like the fact that AI would allow you to just say, can I take a vacation 3 weeks after I took a vacation, and have it spit an answer back, seems like it would be really valuable, particularly to larger teams and distributed teams, where you can't just walk down the hall and bang on Debbie's door and be like, Debbie, can I have a vacation? That seems wonderful, because I've yet, even in my own fairly organized teams and watching clients' teams, the amount of knowledge and value and process and things that just is completely not taken advantage of because nobody has the patience to go find the file is kind of amazing.
Thank you.
All right, Michael, you're up next.
Right, thank you. Katie, I really enjoyed your presentation. Love your viewpoints. And I do have, the question that I have has to do with your 4 questions. Primarily with the should I. Have you ever been in a moment or situation where the should I was right on the edge or the cusp? And if so, what was it that ultimately led you to say, yeah, I think I should? Because you have the four questions, but the should I think is at the heart of it all.
Yeah, it really is. The one that we still kind of walk the line is the example I gave where I said we decided not to. I can see us coming back to that later and needing to make a decision, and that's specific in that right now. For those listening sessions, I am capable of facilitating the conversation, not passively, but actively, managing the time and taking word for word notes in time with multiple participants by myself. I am not confident, and this is not a slight to my team, that all of my team members can do that. And being able to say, you know what, AI is going to take the notes. You don't have to deal with that. Focus on facilitating the session and making it the best that it could. Boy, there's something about that I really see the upswing, and really being able to focus, my team and skill development where we're delivering the most value. But I also recognize that really goes against something that we have very intentionally in our 5, almost 6 years of business never done, and are very vocal about why we don't do it, and working to figure out how we put the right privacy and parameters in place so that people know, you know what, this really isn't any different than what we did before. Here are the steps that we're putting in place to make sure that recording is immediately destroyed, that, like whatever we can do to continue to make people feel comfortable. But I see within the next 6 to 12 months, us needing to revisit that one and saying, we don't love this. What can we do to mitigate the parts that we don't like, in an effort to reap the benefits? That's a very good question, because you're right, it is the heart of it. Just because we can does not necessarily mean that we should. And so much of the amazing technology like AI, we could technically write and do all this stuff ourselves. So it's an added bonus, in our world of abundance. So asking what we do with it, there was a great quote that said something to the effect of, taking the time to consider what we create is now of greater value than simply creating, because we can create at such scale.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I guess I'm next. You actually just kind of touched on my question a little bit, and my question has to do with privacy and really convincing the clients that you have that you're using their data responsibly. It's something that I'm experiencing in my own job, is that while my employer encourages us to use AI, they're very careful not to put any sort of personal data in there or identifiable data in there. And so I'm just wondering, if you're using AI to analyze your client's data, how did you get your clients to be okay with that? And maybe you can just talk a little bit more about the privacy aspect of it.
We haven't done it yet, but even with us just going through it, we had the same concerns, right? Like, we're sitting you in a room, we're asking you as the staff of this company to be really honest about your experience. You're not going to be honest if you think your quote with your name attached, or worse, the recording is going to get shown to your CEO. Like, you're just not. I wouldn't be. So we already ensure that names are never attached. Recordings are never there. If we think there's anything in their quote that is distinguishing in any way a particular turn of phrase, we strip it as part of going through and cleaning the data post-session to ensure that it doesn't exist, to try to cover that. Now, if somebody worked really hard, could they go through those notes and try to guess maybe that so-and-so might have said? Probably. We have been fortunate to have clients that aren't really trying to screw with the process. They actually are looking to create a space for people to share candidly. So we haven't had to deal with that yet. The answer is, whether you use AI or you have access, somebody still has access to data that maybe they don't want falling into other people's hands, right? Whatever that may be, whether it's, you know, your social security number, or just something you said you maybe don't want to say in front of certain people. So we always take that with just the utmost sensitivity in the first place, and then do our best to be really clear up front. This is what the process is going to be. This is why we put those parameters in place, and this is what it means for your information. That way clients aren't wondering, well, what happened with it? You know, in most cases, they so far have been pretty happy with our response. What they're happy with is that they're not unsure what it is that we're doing with it, and that we as a team know what our rules are, so that I don't have one person that's like, yeah, that's because Tammy was talking about, and I'm like, whoa, like we don't want to do that, to make sure that people understand what those principles of practices are and why we have them in place. And it doesn't mean people can't make a mistake. You know, like, it's going to happen at some point. Somebody's going to, it's already happened, put something into ChatGPT they weren't supposed to. So, you know, continuing to talk about that and make people aware, the same way we don't want people to click on crazy emails in their inbox, but we sometimes do it anyway. So you know, like, some of those things are always there, but that's our response to people thinking about this, and our own response is, how can we be really proactive? How can we be really transparent? How can we be really thoughtful about what happens? And usually what I find is most people have just simply never talked about it, so they're actually not sure, or there's an assumption. And I wrote a post about, you know, this person that just turned on their AI recorder, and they were going to take all these meetings, and just sort of assumed that I was going to be okay with that. I'm like, dude, I've never met you before. I don't really want to be recorded. I haven't even said hello to you. You know, maybe later if we really know each other and you really feel like it helps you to not lose track of meetings. But my goodness, you know, that really made for a very weird meeting, because I declined, and he was not happy about it.
Interesting. Roger's got a question here.
It seems like if you really are concerned about identifiability of things people have said, relying on human judgment to remove that is probably not a viable long-term strategy. So I wonder if AIs might actually be a very handy tool to take all of anything that you have that concern about, run it through, and basically have it rewrite things so as to remove identifiable features.
We're designing that for my company right now.
Because people's, I use this term mildly, naive sense of what is identifiable and what is not, doesn't really typically understand what, if you really want to break through that, is possible. So,
yeah.
You know, so again, relying on people just isn't going to work. If it matters, you probably need to have something more powerful to protect that.
It's worth considering, but we have to be really careful that, like, we don't want to fully rewrite it, or we don't get the same insight. You know, we want to understand the words that they're using, why they're using these phrases, not those phrases. So at least for us, there's a careful line of where we put that, and so far trying to use the human to say, this is I don't want so-and-so's name next to this quote. Or maybe we don't want to put the specific department, or we don't want to refer to a specific person in this quote. We can just say fellow team member and stop there. Has been able to keep us out of anything that has made anybody truly uncomfortable, as has, you know, we don't give all of that information to even the client themselves, so that the sort of raw data isn't actually floating out there anywhere. But it's a good point to think about, depending on what you're going to do with it and how secure it actually is. There can be definite benefits to having technology look for some of those things as well to really make sure it's clean, whatever that means to you.
Very good. Any other questions here in Denver? I have a question for you, Katie. Have you? I don't know how to put this. My experience is, if I had 2 hours to write something historically, I still end up taking the 2 hours. But with AI, I maybe come up with 4 or 5 different ideas. Like, I'm finding myself overproducing, for lack of a better term. Are you seeing any of that with your team, that either there's more ideas than you're spending more time curating than editing? Like, is there any sort of issue with overproducing stuff, or good or bad?
I haven't seen it, and it's just our experience. I haven't seen it leading to, oh my God, now I have 50 million ideas. I've seen it more like, oh great, we can, turn out more SEO primed articles. It's crap content, but like, we can quickly do it, and then we'll have all these SEO prime pages and it'll be wonderful. So like, in that sense of overgeneration, I've seen a number of examples where I've, got that client out there that thinks they've found the latest silver bullet and they are very excited about it. For myself, I haven't used, I do not have a lack of idea problem. I have a lack of time to thoroughly explore idea problem. So that hasn't been something I've not looked for more, but I may. Whether AI was there or not, trying to help people curate down the number of options that they might have is a big piece of our work, and helping them to see that, like, you don't actually have to do all of the things. Like, let's make some choices, and really helping them to see that choices have trade-offs is a big piece. Most of our clients are doing something fundamentally valuable, whether you call it impact or something that's just fundamentally useful. They do not lack for ideas and cool things and cool approaches and new ways and better ways of going about doing whatever it is that they're doing, to serve whoever it is that they serve. So yeah, abundance is big. The people I've found, and this is just who happens to be in my network, using AI for idea generation and to help them, come up with more, haven't necessarily found an overabundance. They've actually found it to be valuable to maybe see ideas they didn't have on their own. So for example, I was talking to a colleague who has, one of the members of their team is now doing more interviews, which is very much outside her skill set, and being able to say, hey, I'm going to go interview an expert on this domain. Could you give me 14 questions or 16 interview questions? And what it's helping is not necessarily over generating, but helping them to see, like, okay, 8 of these I would have never thought of, because that's not my background or that's not what I was interested in, but it doesn't mean they're not really good questions. So they still have to go through, to your point, that process of curating what they naturally came up with, what AI came up with, and what somebody else might have suggested in order to get to a final list.
Yep, that's great. Other questions? Leah, how are you holding up?
I'm okay. I don't have much voice. I've been really enjoying a lot of the other things people have said. I know that you have a very varied background. You've done a lot of different things. I'd love to hear a little bit about how that intersects with your experiences with the AI. I think we often think of AI as being over here and everything else as being over here. And to me, what I've noticed in the last year is there's a lot of integration happening. And I'm interested in how your mind works to start to sort of integrate everything in your process.
It's interesting. Very similarly to the questions that I laid out, as far as like, this is what we're trying to do. Is this another layer that we could bring into what's going on? And to your point about like integration, if we change this domino or we knock this domino down, what happens to the rest of the row of domino, which starts to be a really interesting conversation as far as, oh, we could actually do this in a completely different way than we did before, or we actually have an opportunity to now offer this additional service or deepen this thing that we do because we have the ability to, we have the manpower to, we have the time to be able to, whatever that might mean. So that's one of the ways that I look at it. As far as like different things that I've done and different things in my background, so much of my sort of work or perspective comes by way of thinking about systems and how to put pieces together and try to make those pieces make sense and how they fit together. And it's been really interesting looking at a tool that can do so many things, you know, and create so many things, trying to figure out exactly where to place it without losing things that I think are really important, because I appreciate the building. In my background, so my very early background was in theater, which is fundamentally human, fundamentally in person, fundamentally by hand, you know, to sit down and be like, oh, this is a lot of screen, this is a lot of digital. I spend a lot of time asking myself questions about, like, was this my idea to build it this way? Or am I building it into the box because I don't even realize, you know, I've become so trained to just assume that this is what I'm supposed to do. Even something as simple as you guys just organized a community with hashtags. We don't even think about that. We're like, of course you use hashtags. We use hashtags for everything. And I'm like, you know, I have moments where I'm like, should we use hashtags for everything? You know, so it's made me probably like more questioning, not paranoid, but more questioning than I even was earlier. And I always was, about wanting a reason for why the pieces fit together the way that they do, to ask the same sorts of questions as far as like, but why? What's the point of putting it together this way? Why are we is this the right way to put it together? And having those questions about, like, is this me that's building this, or am I, you know, like, am I adapting to it versus it adapting to me? And that's you can drive yourself nuts. And I give myself so much time during a day, and then I'm like, got to put that away, and we got work to do, and we can come back to that box tomorrow. But I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Yeah, I'm really interested in people's experiences and how it all kind of plays back to how your voice and your vision and what the work that you do comes from all kinds of different experiences. And I think sometimes we get very focused on, this is the one thing I'm interested in, this is what I do, but I'm always interested in how all of those experiences you've had before, how theater impacts the choices you're making now. And I like that you were talking about the processes and how, you know, you covered that a lot. And so I wanted to hear your take on that. Yeah, I did cover it. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Do you find, as you and the people you work with use these tools that might give them a leg up, like maybe they weren't good at writing, but they are good at writing now. Maybe they weren't messing around with generating art, but now they are. And are you finding that people's skills are going more horizontal? And how are you dealing with, you know, Sally has this job, you know, Bob has this job, I've got this job. Are you finding the lines blurring at all? Or are you finding people sort of leveling up in areas you didn't expect it? How are you managing that?
We're a pretty small team, so we have less of that pain when we're working with clients. We want to see more of that happen, and spend a lot of time teaching them how to work more cross-functionally and not in the, like, I'm going to say super performative way that I think, you know, we're going to break down silos, except not really, which is always, I'm like, by doing what exactly, so that we can see how that's going to happen. We actually try to get that going. And by virtue of doing that, it means people do end up learning about, like, oh, I didn't know that, like, I was just on with a client and they were like, I still don't know as much as Sherry, but boy, I learned a lot about Google Analytics and all the new upgrades that just went through that I had no idea about, because we were all cross-functionally on this project and we couldn't move the project forward without all of us at least having a base understanding of what analytics that we could pull in. And they actually saw that as a benefit to go out and learn new things. And I read a study recently that said one of the biggest things people are looking for, they call it opportunity, but essentially was the cool expert with an E, you know, who needed to brand their thing, called it opportunity. But what they're basically saying is they want space to learn and grow. They want to be able to, you know, move up within the company. They want to be able to learn new skills. They want to be able to gain different perspectives. And how do we build that in? And I see that in my own team. Absolutely everybody I've interviewed over the last 3 to 4 years, one of the consistencies is I really want an opportunity to learn something I haven't done before. I want to make sure I have opportunities in this role to take on projects or to take on approaches I haven't done before. And it's like, okay, you know, leaders of companies, how are you really leaning into being able to do that? I think AI is one potential skill set in the sense of like any tool, you can be good at using it, you can be very bad at using it. And I think some people who are really into it are picking up that skill, but I think there are also people who are maybe pulling the bottom up on certain skills that maybe they weren't as interested in or weren't as good at, and are saying, you know what, this is going to help me. You know, even some people I know who are trying to use it to generate presentations, that they're like, I'm not a designer, this is not really my skill, but I have a good idea, you know, and if this will help me to better communicate my idea, cool. And at the end of the day, do I really think everybody has to be an ace PowerPoint designer? Probably not, you know, so like I'm cool with using technology to try to be what helps to level up that skill versus a class in PowerPoint design, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I've one other, if anyone has any questions, raise your hand, but here's one more. And this one is fairly pedestrian. It sort of goes against what your talk was, but I'm just curious, what tool do you use? Is it ChatGPT? Are there other tools that you use? And then sort of the follow-on to that is, have you used any of the new multimodality of ChatGPT or the GPTs, you know, the shareable GPTs? You know, have you changed how you use ChatGPT as it's gotten more capable?
No, because it still hasn't done a couple of things I want to my satisfaction. So I'm still working my way through it and then trying to determine, like, is it me or is it the tool? Which, you know, I only have so much time in my day to like add the learnings. But I've used ChatGPT and what is now what was in Edge, which I know has been rebranded, and I have been working
Chat.
And comparing the difference in what I would get in responses, trying to see, like, and I'm weird, I'm like, how did it give the response? Is it able to cite its sources? Does it answer me when I ask those questions? Which one answers me? How do they answer me? That's been things that I've been playing with. We're looking to and plan to implement in December a platform called Zolt, which has built AI into its platform already that will allow you to search only the content that we put in there, which essentially gives, you know, our community a really amazing opportunity to, you know, it's not like having a meeting with me. It's never going to be like having a meeting with me. But, you know, if you're like, oh, you know, like she talks about this somewhere, but I can't find where it is, it'll cough up an answer, much like not being able to dig through the documents. This should hopefully make it much more accessible to go back through deeper and longer knowledge. And I'm like, boy, that's really cool. But I got into it while they were still building the tool, because I'm the user that's in there. Like, I don't quite understand why it works like this. These seem like random suggested questions. Am I able to make them more specific to my community? Like, I am that person. But I don't know if that makes the company happier, if they want to punch me in the face. So that's been interesting as well. And I've been using.
What's that tool, Katie?
Zolt, ZOLT.SO. They keep changing their branding and what market they're speaking to, because they're still a startup. But they're really they're like a circle.io education-based platform to build guides and different things on. I've been pretty happy with it. I follow them a couple years. But the other one that I use is Dream Studio, where I've been going in trying to get it to pick out images. And I don't know if it's the wrong tool. I suspect it's me. And while I can get it to sometimes generate cool things, I can't get it to generate what I want it to. I'm like, but I want it like this. And because I'm a designer by trade, I know what I want to see. And I haven't quite gotten the machine to like speak Katie. So I'm still working on that particular adventure, which has been kind of fun. And then I'm going to completely forget, because you asked me, the platforms that we're exploring to deal with the qualitative text, because those aren't like plopping it straight in. We want to go through a company that's sort of set up the appropriate security, isn't just feeding it back into ChatGPT, which sort of freaks us out. And I apologize off the top of my head, I can't remember. We've narrowed it down to a handful, but we're still debating which one we think is really going to work.
Got it. Great. Well, thank you so much, Katie. This is really awesome. Wait, looks like Oscar might have a question. Oscar?
Yeah, Katie, addressing your concern about ChatGPT taking that private information and like doing evil stuff with it that they shouldn't. In theory, if you use OpenAI, if they use the API, then according to the terms of service, they don't use any of that information for training. So they, in theory, if you go through the API, in theory, they shouldn't be capturing. I'm just legally air quotes to, but yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm there. It was like Zoom being like, we're going to use your data to train our AI, and everybody being like, are you for real? And then ripping it out of it.
Exactly.
Good to know. Thank you.
Katie, it was so awesome hearing your wisdom tonight and hear what you had to say. I really appreciated it.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I could be here. It was great getting to meet everybody. You all have wonderful questions.
Great.
Come back anytime.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. Let's give Katie a nice AI Salon golf clap. Very nice. Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. And yeah, I would invite you to join. We now have this lovely platform where you can join and use hashtags and jump in the conversation with us.
Well, I joined the meetup group, so I will come figure out how to get on to the Mighty Network. So thank you.
Great. aisalon.mn.com. So Leah, I know your voice has left the building. I appreciate you being here. Leah's actually joined us from an airport hotel. You're picking up your son in like half an hour, right?
Right. I'm picking up my son at Hartford at the Hart. He's flying in from Chicago, and I am here at the in the lobby of the Sheraton Hotel Hartford at the Bradley International Airport.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, good.
Listen, it's Thanksgiving week. Leah, thank you for this has been an amazing year, doing the salon with you, growing the community. So I want to thank you for being my co-host and all this. And I also want to thank all the organizers, the guild leaders, everyone who's stepping up, anyone who's donated to help us support the cost of this. Weirdos like Roger who've been showing up, week after week after week and participating. It's just slow learners. Yeah, exactly. You'll get there eventually, Roger. But I just want to say thank you to everyone and just really appreciate all of you being here. So with that,
I'm going to iterate that. Thank you. It's been an amazing. We'll do more of this in 2 weeks at our 1-year anniversary, but we did it. And this isn't a community that could have even. It isn't. I mean, Kyle and I started this, but it's really you, and it's everything you brought, and all of the volunteer work, and all the time, and all of the ideas, and everybody coming together. So grateful, really. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone here in Denver, we're going to go over to Zeppelin Station after this and hang out. So if you want to go hang out, we're going to do that for a bit. And that's just right up the road here. And everyone online, thank you so much. Have a great Thanksgiving. And we will see you on the 5th for the 1-year anniversary.
Woo! Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Kyle. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Sheridan, Bobby.
Mm.